about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So, all right, this is, again, another problem we have with technology. I'm not anti-tech. It's just some of these things are really getting ridiculous. So I don't know if you heard, but a plane had to undergo a security alert and an emergency declaration in ground. Thank God, not because there was anything wrong with the plane or the pilot. Nobody got hurt. But it's because a teen's Bluetooth name was Bomb. So that pops up. People see that. They panic. And the airline has to take that seriously. So they had to ground the plane. I think it was a plane, a United Flight 236, heading from Newark to Palma de Mallorca. Now, this was this Saturday. And there were repeated announcements to disable Bluetooth. And unfortunately, they had a 7700 emergency squawk and diversion because this kid, his Bluetooth name was Bomb, B-O-M-B. Stupid. Honestly, why do people do that? Now, it's interesting. My husband thought it would be funny to name our Wi-Fi FBI van, right, just to kind of mess with everybody so that everybody would go outside and look for an FBI van. And I notice a lot of other people are doing that. So people are doing that to kind of mess with each other. But when you're on a plane, you use a word like that or anything that has to do with incendiary devices or artillery, you're gonna get grounded. And you know, everybody is really on edge, and they should be. You know, especially with all the incidents we've had, you know, over the last few decades, especially from terrorists. But, you know, not sure why this teen, he was 16 years old. He admitted to owning the Bluetooth speaker in question. Now, some people say that could be the name of a commercial product. I don't know many commercial products named Bomb. But then some people think that it was just to be funny, but the intent remains unclear. So they have to investigate. They said there's been other provocative wireless device names that have caused security scares. Apparently, earlier in May, there was a Wi-Fi hotspot that led to an FBI warning on Turkish Airlines and KLM involving bomb references. So if you guys are screwing around now, and what really, really stinks is, let's say you have a teenager that really doesn't want to go on this trip, or you have somebody who doesn't want to see their in-laws. They could very easily cause the plane to divert. I got a lot of flights I'm taking this month. Okay, I want them all safe, you know, but I also don't want somebody doing stupid mayhem. And you know, this is where we are today, where we are able to manipulate each other, and we're able to do cause and effect remote by something that is so simple that we could do at our own home, in our own office. That and I think what's sad is people love that sort of power, that they could mess with other people on a grand scale. And I'm not saying this kid wanted to ground the plane. I don't think he knew what he was doing. I think, I mean, and again, I might be naive, but people like to do funny, vulgar, stupid names. But now that people are reading this and hearing about this, they're like, this could be pretty cool. The problem is, which is not cool, is one, it's very, very expensive, and it's also dangerous to have to add extra miles and add extra, you know, landing and taking off to a flight. You're increasing a risk of a potential, you know, calamity. The more you have to, the more you increase opportunity. And then, you know, the other issue is you're, you know, we are going to, as passengers, feel the brunt of it. Now, I like texting to the last minute till I'm unable to, because some of these airplane Wi-Fi's really stink. Everybody goes, "Oh, we have airplane Wi-Fi. We have airplane Wi-Fi," and then you're like, "Okay, well then I'll let you know in a couple hours because I'll be on a plane," and then I have no access, and I'm unable to, and so I just do as much as I can do before we can, and so I shut my Bluetooth off, or I go to airplane mode at the very last second. But what do you think flight attendants and pilots are going to do? I mean, eventually they might ban cell phones, or they might say, "All cell phones come here." We start to lose our liberties when you have idiots do stupid things. And I really want to give this kid the benefit of the doubt, because people always make funny names. Now I think mine is just phone, but I used to be Michael Fassbender or something like that. And or Aragorn, and I would like fool around with it, but I would definitely want to do something as stupid as bomb. So what we're looking at here is, so far, I don't think planes are going to make a major issue, but this happens again. We're getting grounded, not only by a plane, but we're getting grounded with our phones. Yeah. Now, people always ask, if I don't do airplane mode, am I going to cause the plane to crash? No, our planes are aware that there are going to be some idiots who will not follow directions and will not shut their cell phones off. The plane will not be affected by that. Usually the reason why, the main reason pilots tell me they want us to shut off our phones or not be talking to people on the phones is because they don't want us to disrupt other people. One thing that we forget is, not only are pilots concerned about flying the plane and our safety, and flight attendants concerned about our safety and all that, but they're also concerned about preventing there to be fights and issues. How many times have we had to ground planes because somebody got rowdy, or there was some row or fight or whatever on a plane? And so somebody on the phone cackling or cussing and somebody else is trying to sleep or something. Now, if you really want to minimize fights and you really want to minimize people being grumpy, quit seating us so damn close together like a cattle car. I mean, you got to give us more room. I mean, these seats are ridiculous. And then they say, "Oh, well, you could purchase, more room." Like it's a business class. It's not a business class. You only gave me one more bag of peanuts, and I had to spend another few $100s for the flight. And so that's already annoying people. But the main reason why we have to shut off our phones is they don't want us to disturb other passengers, and probably disturb them too. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-679-0800. That's 800-679-0800. 800-679-0800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Spelled Out, D-O-C-T-O-R, Daliah. Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So years ago, I did a segment on the power of prayer. As a physician, I keep getting asked, do I recommend prayer? Is prayer scientifically helpful? Do we have statistically significant studies showing that prayer can help somebody in their medical journey? And the answer is abso-flippin'-lutely. See, notice I say flippin'. Absolutely, the power of prayer. I have prayed with my patients. I have recommended they pray. Usually, most of the patients choosing me as a doctor are already praying. They're going, oh God, I'm going to see Daliah. Lord help me. So most people walking in are already of faith, saying, okay, I need God's help. Look at this woman. She looks like Phyllis Diller on steroids. But prayer is very, very powerful. And there have been some studies. I mean, we don't maybe have a lot of rigorous clinical trials because, if somebody, God forbid, has stage 4 cancer, we're not going to say, you know what? Let's have one cohort just prayer, one chemotherapy, another. We're obviously going to be. There's going to be a bunch of variables in that study, but we do have another study saying just 5 minutes of prayer could have surprising health benefits. Just 5 minutes. So, according to a study from University of Maryland School of Medicine's Department of Family and Community Medicine, they looked at the effects of direct prayer to the effects of listening to music, and they said that prayer provided greater and more sustained relief for symptoms of pain, for symptoms of anxiety. And what's interesting is we have a lot of studies with music. We also have studies with cuss words. Those individuals who curse will have less pain. Not in general, but they did a study of fraternity. We talked about this. They did a study of fraternity boys, and they had them stick their hand in ice, a bowl of ice. Not the safest thing to do. But those who were able to cuss lasted longer than those who were not allowed to curse. Or cuss. So that was pretty fascinating. But going back to this with prayer, according to Jesse Bradley, the pastor of Grace Community Church in Washington, told Fox News that prayer is powerful and beneficial on many levels. Prayer is most commonly used form of complementary medicine in the United States. 43% of Americans rely on it. They say the researchers focused on a practice known as proximal intercessory prayer, PIP, defining as in-person, face-to-face prayer directed toward another individual's well-being. They recruited 180 adult patients from a family medicine waiting room. You're like, only 180 were in the room? I know that's a light waiting room from what I've seen, but they got 180. All participants had previously reported experiencing moderate to severe pain, anxiety, or both. Following their standard medical appointments, the patients were randomly assigned to one or two groups. The prayer group, in which participants receive 5 minutes of in-person Christian prayer delivered by a trained volunteer, and the music group, where they spent 5 minutes listening to music. They said the researchers then tracked changes in the participants' self-reported pain and anxiety levels at multiple intervals immediately after the 5-minute session at 2 weeks and at 6 weeks. The doctor running this, Catherine Jacobson, said it was very well received. 97% of participants said they were neutral or supportive when asked about having this kind of prayer available as part of their medical visits. The study, and it's free. It's free. I know there's like a Hello app. I don't know how much it costs to use that, but prayer, it's free. The study was published in the Annals of Family Medicine, and it revealed that while patients in both groups showed improvements, those in the prayer group reported substantially greater relief. All right, so daily prayer. These are, it doesn't have to be a particular prayer. It could be Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Protestant, LDS, Hindu, Buddha. But what we believe happens is how it affects your cortisol, Because people always ask, what is the medical, what is the scientific reasoning for this? Well, one is I think, God is a part of science. So that's the first thing I go to. But also, they do believe it's linked to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which lowers your stress, lowers your cortisol levels. And in a way, it's like meditation. And we've been using meditation, and that's been a part of complementary and alternative medicine for centuries. And so we think that it relaxes you, it allows you to refocus, it connects you to God. And, I have atheist patients, but many of them have a go-to, have some sort of a spirituality. It might not be to God, but they have, and that focus allows them, where they're focusing their attention away from, the pathology, helps. Now, have I, as a doctor, seen somebody's cancer cured? I've seen people go into remission, and every one of them said they prayed, but I can't use that as science. The one case that I feel is more than anecdotal, okay, because we have witnesses, is I had a patient that broke multiple ribs. And she came in and I x-rayed her and she was in a lot of pain. And when somebody breaks ribs, it is the one condition we are very liberal on as it pertains to pain control, because if you break a rib and the rib didn't puncture a lung or anything like that, you won't die from a rib fracture, but you could die from pneumonia because you can't take that deep breath. You're like, ow, ow. So you only do shallow breaths. If you do shallow breaths, things get settled in there and you could get pneumonia. And so we want you to still take big deep breaths. Well, how do you do that when you fractured multiple ribs and you're in a lot of pain? So she was in a lot of pain. I made sure she had good pain control, but not too much because we don't want her overdosing. And a few days later, she goes to church. Now, most rib fractures take at least 6 weeks to heal, and then some. So she goes to church, and she tells the pastor what happened. So the pastor said, come up here, and he asked everybody to pray, and then he put his hands like over the ribs, where the ribs were, and she said she was pain-free. She comes to my office 2 days later and says, because I have her follow up because I want to watch for pneumonia. And I think this was, probably a Tuesday after a Sunday. And she's like, I'm in no pain. Okay, how many pills did you take lately, sister? She's like, no, here's my bottle. I'm like, okay, that's really, really good. And I do believe in the power of prayer. Well, let's take a look. Let's see if I'm starting to see some union and some bone growth. So we x-rayed her again. Still, multiple rib fractures. Because we had x-ray in the office, because I like to look at my own x-rays. And she said, look at me. And she's moving around, taking big deep breaths. I go, you go, girl. You keep going back to church and you keep doing that. I don't have any other scientific explanation. But what now? People say, well, pain is perceptive. It's your brain. And, maybe you're able to manipulate or whatever. They're fine. Manipulate the hell out of me. Because I wake up every day with hips and knee and plantar fasciitis. And I pray a lot. And I do credit my prayer to my not being in pain. But sometimes there's only so much you can do. You have an amputation, you have, post-herpetic neuralgia, spinal stenosis, but I've seen that with that patient. I can't explain it. She was like, I don't know, like a 60-year-old woman. Because all I cared about was her not getting pneumonia. Then okay, well, that's a fluke. She was high. No, she wasn't high. She came in the following week because I would see them every week. Lungs sounding good. She taking deep breaths. She not being in pain. So I'm not telling you to pray if you're an atheist. I'm not telling you to go and pray if you're not very religious. But, when the power of prayer cannot be overestimated, right? And it's underestimated. And I really do believe that for those individuals who want to, and I did have a patient who had a severe lung disease, and he went to the hospital. I decided this was Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving dinner, I went to go visit him. I know you guys are thinking of trying to get away from the family. Yeah. But I was like, let me go see him. He's Thanksgiving. He's alone. He's in the hospital. And he's sitting there next to me. And he said, I'm not going to be leaving this hospital. And I go, yes, you are. You have a family that's waiting for you. He said, Dahlia, I'm not. I go, do you want to pray? Do you want to pray? He goes, no, I'm ready to go. He actually died later that night. He had a long standing COPD. And he actually, when he was talking to me, he was really calm. And I didn't, and even though I've learned as a medical professional that when somebody says they're going to die, they are. But he was really calm and he was breathing fine. So I'm like, no, look at you. Your sats are good. You might have to go home on some oxygen. He's like, he knew. So I really do believe, and it's really hard as a scientist and going through so much science to get to where I am, in my career. I really do believe that there's huge power of prayer. And so for those of you that are of faith, take advantage of that. And for those of you who aren't, find something that you could focus on that lowers your cortisol, helps you relax, and gives you your compass. The 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
And we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, I watching this back and forth that we're seeing with Iran. And I know people are pretty upset that it's taking so long. And, Trump needs to finish the job. And is he finishing the job? Is there a delay? Was the job finished? Well, it really depends on what he had said and what we want the job to be. So what this was originally, and we needed to. We need to get the IRGC out of Iran. Help the people survive such a horrible fascist and terrorist rule and stop Iran from funding terrorists. This move had to happen. But Trump, to sell it, was very overly optimistic. And I do believe that he is going to reach his goal. But he did suggest that it was going to be fairly short war, if that. And so he had hoped, what I believe, was that once they were able to annihilate the Navy of the IRGC, kill their leaders, and really dismantle them and castrate them as much as they did, that the individuals in Iran who were seeking freedom and were oppressed for so long would take over. And some liberal pundits had said, look, it's not that easy because these guys have been oppressed. They don't have guns. And I'm sure Trump understood. And I believe he wanted to have other countries jump in and help. And even though every other country understands what a thorn in the side Iran is and how dangerous their current regime is, you have a lot of weenies out there. And so what he thought was going to be very, very popular is still popular, but not publicly popular and just privately popular. And also, Trump has trust issues, and understandably so, with these other countries that leak things to the press. I just watched the movie Pressure. Very good movie. We'll talk about it a little bit. Where, they had to postpone D-Day. And I'm not going to do spoilers, but it's a historical, it's a movie on a true story. And, the General Eisenhower, when they were going to postpone D-Day, and, they were possibly thinking they might have to postpone it for 2 weeks. He's like, how do you furlough 300 or thousands of soldiers who know about D-Day? Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to say something. And, in this day and age with look at the leaks with the Supreme Court and, Colorado, somebody leaked to the media right before ICE was going to do a major operation on Tren de Aragua. There's people working against, the common good. And so he couldn't get every other country involved. I mean, if this was, pre-World War II or post-World War II, yes, I think country leaders would be like, okay, let's, stop any regime that's killing their people and killing other countries and supporting Russia in their invasion of Ukraine and supporting Hamas and Hezbollah. Let's get rid of them and make sure that a new democratic regime can take over Iran. No, that it's a different time right now. And you have individuals who think that it's more popular politically to be anti-Trump. And you see what these leaders are doing. They're like, you know what, I'm going to play it safe. Meanwhile, like in England, in the UK, people are protesting what's been happening with immigration, what's been happening with terrorism and other issues, and listen to the people. I've been to Europe and I've been to Israel, and it blows my mind how, because I don't really talk politics, but they go, American, oh gosh, yeah, tell Trump to do that here. Somebody tell our leaders to do what Trump's doing. And you see, when you talk to people on the ground, yes, there's liberals and there's conservatives, but I can't tell you how many times I run into people who say, look, why aren't we doing that here in Europe? Why aren't we addressing the things that need to be addressed? But these politicians, their main goal is to get elected or to stay in office. And so they play it safe. I told you I had a job where I saw things were not being done right. And I was like, let me fix them. I'm not going to make anybody else do the work. I'll do all the work. Let me fix it. And I was told not to. Just to lay low, get your paycheck. All right, because you'll last longer. And I'm like, what? Why aren't we fixing stuff? And you really have the school of thought, just lay low. If I lay low and I don't rock the boat, and I'm not rocking the boat, I'm trying to stabilize a boat. And I just can't do that. I can't do half-assed work. I can't know that something bad is happening and not do anything. So Iran has severed all diplomatic talks with the United States. Right? They're accusing, and they're trying to make Israel the bad guy because Hezbollah continues to do terrorism, continues to attack Israel. Hezbollah has set up camp in Lebanon. Lebanon doesn't want Hezbollah there. They don't. Lebanon wants peace with Israel. But they're trying to say, it's not just about that. I mean, Israel and Hezbollah are going to be having it out, just like Israel and Hamas. They have to. Israel has every right to protect themselves, especially after Hamas attacked them. And while Hamas attacked them, killed, murdered, raped, took hostages, Hezbollah decided to attack Israel as well. And again, funded by Iran. Iran and U.S. could still come up with a deal, but the Iran regime doesn't want to. You're dealing with this, just like you saw with Ramses II. Okay, we'll let your people go. Oh, no, I changed my mind. It's exactly what we're seeing now with Iran. Why? Because when they're terrorists, when they're abusers, when they're fascists. I lived with people who were abusive, and they would grant you that little bit of freedom, and then within seconds take it away. They change your mind. They kept changing their mind. So Iran's top negotiators stopped communicating with the U.S. through Pakistani intermediaries. Tehran vowed to fully shut down the Strait of Hormuz. They're crazy over there. They also want to stop communication. They haven't allowed their people to have access to internet fully. And so now the regime says no dialogue will take place until Israel fully withdraws from Lebanon and also stops attacks in Gaza. Now, if Israel Defense Force is trying to eliminate threats, see the problem with the ceasefire is, okay, we as Americans might not get attacked, but they're planning another Israel attack. We know this. Their goal is for Israel to be off the face of this earth. So, I mean, Israel has every right to defend themselves. So I know there's going to be a lot of back and forth, and what's going to happen is more anti-Semitism is going to rise. People are going to blame Israel for what's happening with Iran. But the goal that Trump had was that the Iran regime be gone. That's not happening yet. It needs to be. It's very fractionated. It's very chaotic. But somehow they're still in control. Why? Because they're the ones with the guns. And until the Iranian people can overthrow them and take control, we are not going to have a logical, common sense person to negotiate with. And in order for Israel, the U.S., to be able to go after these bad leaders, they need Israel. Israel's the one that has the knowledge. They're the ones that helped us kill the Ayatollah. So we got to be smarter about this, from a media standpoint. Now, Trump keeps saying that, Iran wants to make a deal, and I do believe that they get reached out by somebody, but is that the main spokesperson? And then the spokesperson's fired. I think they're already replacing the interim president. So it's not going to be done quick and easy, but this needs to be done. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Dahlia here. Thousands of physicians, residents, nurses, and medical students are silently dealing with depression. And tragically, 400 take their lives each year. 400! I wrote The Depressed Doctor, hoping to reach out to anyone struggling. You're not alone. Don't stay silent. The Depressed Doctor can be found on Amazon, or the book can be found on drdahlia.com. And if you or anyone you know needs help, call or text 988, the National Suicide and Crisis Hotline.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. So one thing that I noticed with myself, I've noticed with friends, I noticed this with patients, is the relationship with senior family members deteriorate exponentially and deteriorate quickly and permanently, such that a relationship you had 30, 40 years ago where you guys were so bonded, loved each other so much, now they don't seem to like you, they don't seem to love you, they seem to blame you for everything. And, I'm going through this as well. Yeah, and I don't want to get too personal, but for those of you who know what I've been going through, there's a family member who I have just been, enabling and trying to, kiss their butt and be as, just because I thought I had to, and I thought God would get mad if I didn't. And then finally I'm like, we're done. Yeah. And they said the same thing. They cut me off. I've never been happier. It stinks for that to happen. And so I look at my sons, and I have, two sons, very good boys, who, I was their everything, right? Because I was their mom. They clutched on to me, and they needed me for everything, and I was their world. Now I'm like, oh, Mom, yeah, no, we're good, Mom. What do you want, Mom? Yeah, and you kind of go through that as teenagers and then as adults. And I really worry that my relationship with them, it's not going to be like when we were, they were babies, but I don't want them to, be mad at me. I don't want them to later just put me in a home and forget about me. And they said they won't. Oh no, what? It was funny. I was having a conversation with one of my sons, and, oh my gosh, I thought, I forgot. But anyway, we were just kind of joking around. And it basically, I fear that, I could filter things. And, when you have a child and you're very lovey-dovey with them when they're little, that starts to go away when you're older. When you're in pain, and you talk straight to them. I'm not going to coochie coo, or, we're going to attack Tashi, with grown men. If my sons are doing something stupid, I'm going to say you're doing something stupid. And, they now have choices. They don't have to hang around me if they don't want to. They can hang around their future wives. They can hang around. And so you already start to see there being a separation. But then what ends up happening for some of us is where the family member, let's say, needs to have assisted living, or the family member needs extra care. And now there's family dynamics, and other people may not be helping, or that person needs to, get some assisted living and they don't want to go, or they don't like what you've done, or they blame you for their, certain condition, or they blame you for, and I just see time and time again turmoil. I had a patient this weekend where you could hear the patient was the older senior, and you heard the child say, well, it's because you did this. So it's because you did this. And that's why, you hurt yourself. And that's why. And they're fighting. And I'm like, God, give the parent a break. And as a doctor, you always want to watch for elder abuse and things like that. It's very difficult from a telemedicine standpoint. In person, there's a lot of signs of that. But sometimes it's just a breakdown of that relationship. And what really stinks is when that elderly person leaves and goes to heaven, or, their next chapter. There's a lot of guilt with those who survive. And they look back and they go, I didn't have to argue with them. We didn't have to yell. We didn't have to, it's interesting. I went through this, I was watching a movie, and you saw a mother and her daughter go and have lunch. And I'm like, I need to do that. I'm going to change the narrative. I'm going to call my mom. And I am going to take her to lunch, and we're going to have a lovely lunch. And it's going to be all positive. It wasn't. Okay. It's not in our personalities. It just didn't happen. And so what I suggest you do, because you don't want to wait till they pass and have regrets. And unfortunately, as they age and they lose their filter, and they get frustrated with their health or their pain or their situation, and they don't have a lot of friends and other people to project that onto. So the family gets it. And then you have family members go, oh, I don't want to see that person because they're going to complain, and they're going to, one is have a conversation. All right. And I always talk about the 3 E's: engage, educate, and enlist. Engage them by saying, look, I know you're scared. I know you're worried that you're getting older. I know you're in pain. Engage him. But here's the problem. All right. You're pushing us away. I'm not pushing you away. Okay, would you like to listen? Can you just listen for a second? All right. Would you want to be around somebody that is always blaming you? That says, well, I'm not always blaming. Even if you're not, that's what we're perceiving. Now, I'm not saying you always have to be positive, but, educate them on what's going on. And then enlist. So look, all right, talk to me when you're struggling. Talk to me about your frustrations and your pain. But I want you to still be close with everybody else and not push them away because you're struggling and you're in pain. I get why you're frustrated. You have every right to be frustrated. It's not easy aging. It's not easy not being able to do things on your own. It's not easy having family members that you pushed away in the past not want to help you. I get that. But, you're being mad at everybody and you're going to die alone. Do you want people surrounding you and here supporting you? I don't need anybody. You all suck. Think about it. Okay? Think about it. And then, we want to be here for you. But you have to let us be here for you. I mean, one thing that I found was very effective is as soon as somebody starts to yell and be grumpy, go, okay, I'll come back later. Or, I'll call you later. Okay, are you ready? I used to do that with patients. There would be a patient going, all right, I don't want to do anything. I don't want the doctor seeing me. I don't want to hear. Okay, I'll come back. Okay, then I come back. No, I don't want an exam. I don't want them looking in my mouth or ear. I don't want to do this. I don't want to look at the mom, and the mom doesn't control the kid. I go, okay, I'll be back. So finally, 2 hours later, the child's like, I'm ready. So, sometimes you can play the waiting game. But relationships oftentimes sour. Sometimes it could also be dementia. I remember my husband said one of his older family members had snapped at him. And this was before they died, and they weren't terminal at the time. But it's like, I can't believe they talked to me like that. I loved them. We were so close. I'm like, you don't understand. The brain is changing. That's not them. You got to remember them when they were younger and healthier. Well, how do you know they have dementia? I go, it's not that it's dementia, but the brain is changing. And so older people may say things to you. They might say that they really would have never said to you because they love you so much, but they don't know what to say. They lose their vocabulary. My vocabulary is very limited. And so my worry is I'm going to be pulling all I could say and it's not going to be the right words. So you need to understand that because they might not understand what's going on. And they might be just thinking you suck. That's all I could say is you suck. When, what are you frustrated about? I'm alone. I'm in pain. I'm scared. Well, that doesn't mean I suck. That just means that's what you're feeling. Hey, you keep telling me I suck. I'm not going to come over. And so, and I'm not going to be there for you. So you have to have conversations with them. If you feel you can't, then get a counselor. If they don't go to counseling, have somebody come to the house. Sometimes they just need that outside person to go, look, you got great kids here. You got an amazing daughter. You got an amazing son. You got an amazing wife. You got an amazing, they're going to help you. But remember, they can only do, they're human. They're going to make mistakes. All right. But you could have an amazing next couple chapters, or it could be very lonely and very tumultuous. But don't panic. You're not alone. This happens so many times. And unfortunately, it really messes with people's last final chapters. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.